Good evening. Welcome to the 985 Workbench. I'm Greg, and my call is W3DIB, tonight's host for the August 4th edition of the Workbench. I'm located in Kennett Square. We meet every Monday at 8 p.m. on the W3GMS Parksburg repeater at a frequency of 146.985 megahertz. The PL tone to access the repeater is 100 hertz. For those who use tone squelch on receive, the repeater transmits a squelch tone of 94.8 hertz. Newcomers are very welcome. We encourage all stations to check in. Take a look at the repeater website located at www.w3gmsrepeater.com. It has lots of information, including technical articles, pictures of 985 users and actions, repeater etiquette, and history. Please be aware that on occasion the repeater experiences intermod interference. Please run maximum power or be prepared to check in digitally through EchoLink or AllStar. We definitely want to hear you. To be able to use EchoLink or AllStar on 95, you'll need to register with us. Directions for doing so can be found on the website at W3GMSrepeater.com. Also, when the intermod is present, before starting a transmission, give a short call. Kind of like a, am I getting in okay? Once the host, me, confirms that, you can then share your longer comments. So when we experience the intermod, just check in to make sure you're getting in solid. Here on the Workbench, we focus on answering general questions of radio theory and operation. Additionally, we invite each station briefly to comment on your amateur radio activity in the past week. When checking in, please indicate if you have a question for the Workbench. So just say your call and then question, or state your call, W3DIB, no question, if there's no question. If you don't have a question, definitely please still check in. After all stations have checked in, we will first share what we've done this past week using a roundtable format. Please write down the call of the station that checks in right after you. When you have finished your comments, turn the mic over to that station. Once we have all made our comments, we will start the question and answer portion of the Workbench, operating as a directed net. I will call on a station that indicated having a question, and then for stations who wish to respond to that question. Wait to be recognized by me, net control, before beginning a transmission. This helps us handle the questions efficiently and keep the net running smoothly. At times, it helps for two stations to pass the mic back and forth to help clarify the situation and pass information. Feel free to do that as needed, and then pass it back to net control. Here's a few things to remember. Don't be too quick to talk. Pause a couple seconds before hitting the push-to-talk switch. It's good repeater etiquette, and it allows those on the digital modes like AllStar and EchoLink a chance to check in, as there is a bit of a delay for them. When you do click the push-to-talk button, please make sure to wait a second before you start talking. The repeater does take a moment to process your PL tone, and it will lop off the first portion of the first syllable of the word if you're not careful. It's very easy for the EchoLink and AllStar stations to miss the first letter of your call sign if you're too quick to talk after pushing the push-to-talk. Also, the repeater has a 3-minute timer. If you talk more than 3 minutes without letting up on your mic button, the repeater completely shuts down. That is until you've released your push-to-talk switch. So every 2 to 3 minutes, release the mic button just for a moment, like this, and then simply continue. Before we begin, I would like to say a thanks to all of our Workbench hosts. They are the ones who make this happen. If you may be interested in hosting the Workbench, please contact Jim, AF3Z, Alpha Foxtrot 3 Zulu, or any of us, and we will help you get started. Lastly, please join Jim, AF3Z, this Thursday night at 8 p.m. for the 95 Roundtable. At this time, we're going to start the check-in process. Remember to indicate whether you have a question by simply stating question or no question after your call. At this time, anyone on the digital modes that wish to check in, please call now. So that would be all EchoLink or AllStar stations. Please call now.
Whiskey 8, Charlie Romeo Whiskey, CR, no question.
Kilo 7, Romeo Alpha November, K7RAN in Salt Lake City.
Kilo Charlie 3, Whiskey Charlie, KC3WWC, John in Landisville, no questions.
Okay, forgive me for the long pause. I was just looking up one of the calls. So far, for the digital check-ins, I've got W8CRWCR. Then I had Kilo 7 Romeo Alpha November. Justin, I believe it is, from Salt Lake City. Wow. And then I had KC3 Whiskey Whiskey Charlie. John, are there any other stations in the digital modes wishing to check in? Please call now. Okay, nothing heard. Now for the RF check-ins. Anybody else coming in through RF, please check in now.
Alpha 3, Victor Echo Echo, mobile right now, but soon to be fixed. No question.
KC3 YSM Stephen Downingtown. NA3CW, no questions.
KC3OOK, kind of a question.
John, no question.
KD3BPI, this is Simon with a question.
KC3SQI, no questions.
Alpha Foxtrot 3 Zulu, AF3Z, no question. Kilo Delta 3 Alpha Papa Romeo, no question.
Okay, let me go through who I've got so far. So originally, I'm going to go through the digital stations quickly. I had W8CRW, K7RAN, KC3WWC. Then starting the RF check-ins, I've got Ron, Whiskey Alpha 3, Victor Echo Echo, WA3VEE. Then KC3 YSM Steve, Downingtown. NA3CW Chuck. KC3OOK Bill with our first question. WA3KFT, John, I believe it's WA3. I hope it's WA3. And no question, you kind of doubled with Bill, or part of your transmission got lopped off. And then I believe the next station was Kilo Bravo 3 Bravo Papa India. Is that the correct station? I did see that you had a question.
This is Kilo Delta 3 Bravo Papa India here. Yeah, Simon with a...
I think I got it that time. Kilo Delta 3 Bravo Papa India, and is it John?
John is my first name, but I go by Simon. So, yeah, thanks for checking.
You're a little bit scratchy, and I'm having a hard time making you out, but I'm hoping I got it right that time. If I didn't, I will correct it when I come back around with your question. So after Kilo Delta 3 Bravo Papa India, we have Kilo Charlie 3 Sierra Quebec India Wayne, KC3SQI, then AF3Z Jim, then over to KD3 Alpha Papa Romeo, Paxton. You are our tail gunner. Are there any other stations that would like to check in? Please call now. Oh, go ahead, Chuck. I didn't catch what you said.
Yeah, KD3BPI, I believe he said his name was Simon.
Chuck, you have ears that are made of magic. I'm amazed at how well you were able to pull things out. I guess maybe I'm not. You might be listening on headphones. Thank you. I appreciate that. Got it. Kilo Delta 3 Bravo Papa India Simon. And I wrote down you have a question. So, are there any other stations that would like to check in? Please call now.
3 Mike Foxtrot Bravo. Checking in. No question.
All right, we got Mike added to the list. W3MFB, Mighty Fine Buckets. All right, I guess we'll go to the quick check-in portion of the net at this point. So feel free to share anything you've done in the past week of ham radio. And it can go back to, I guess, since the roundtable, because that would have been the last directed net. So anything from Friday through this morning. And hey, I'd like to offer everybody an apology for missing my hosting duty the previous roundtable. And yeah, I just wanted to put that out there because it's been on my mind since it happened. So just putting that out there. And with that, we will turn it over to CR, Whiskey 8 CRW. This is Whiskey 3 Delta India Bravo on the Monday Night Workbench.
Very good, Greg. Thanks for hosting tonight. This is CR, and it's been a relatively normal, quiet week in ham radio. 985 activities, a couple other nets on other frequencies, and that's been it. So let's go to Justin. K7, Romeo Alpha November, W8CRW.
Yeah, W8CRW, this is K7RAN, and you do have my name correct, but I go by Randy, Radio Alpha November Delta Yankee, just to mix things up, I guess. No, that is what I go by. I'm in Salt Lake City, and I was just setting up DV switch on a device and hooked in here through AllStar link directly, and just wanted to check in just to see if it worked. So it does, and it's been a long time since I've been up around Downingtown, Pennsylvania, but I have a friend who actually works at QVC. I believe they're not that far away from you. Anyway, that's it for me. In and out. Thank you for letting a stranger say hello from all the way out west. This is K7RAN.
Excellent. Well, Randy, nice to make your acquaintance. As we said at the top of the net, everybody's always welcome, so feel free to come back and join in, especially if you have a question, or join us on Thursday night. There's another a roundtable discussion where everybody kind of we go around and enjoy each other's company, talk about anything ham radio related. All right, turning it over to John, KC3 WWC.
Thanks, Greg. This is KC3WWC, John in Landisville. For my past week, it has been kind of quiet. I listen to a bunch of podcasts for all my interests, so that includes ham radio stuff. So I heard about a conference coming up called the Zero Retries Conference. It's on September 13th. It's virtual and in person, like Portland or something like that, or Oregon. I'm not sure. I'm going to join virtually, but it's all digital aspects of radio, so all that newer stuff, and everything but talking, I guess. So it sounds interesting. I've got to check that out. Also, my last job just ended, so I'm between work, so I've got to have all kinds of time. So I'm contemplating maybe traveling for some parks or other radio projects, etc. Maybe trying to build another directional VHF antenna, something lighter weight, to put on the top of the flagpole here and point towards 985. I was thinking maybe a Moxon or something like that. My projects just get more complicated slowly over time, so thinking about giving that a shot. I will hand off to Ron, WA3VEE. This is KC3, WWC.
Very, very good. By the way, the Intermod is in there among us on and off. It doesn't sound like it's there right now, but if you have high power, go ahead and use it. Or like Randy out west, if you have AllStar EchoLink, now may be a good time to switch to that, just in case the Intermod comes back. This is WA3VEE, Ron in Westchester. And yes, Randy, welcome to 985, absolutely. And we have a website, as Greg mentioned, W3GMSrepeater.com. And also, if you're connecting to Joe's repeater on the node, AllStar node 53085, be sure that that's the only node you're connected to, because we don't want to be connected to the world here on 985 for sure. Okay, I've been asked a lot of questions here about Joe and how he is doing. He evidently picked up a bug way back at field day, and it took a little while to gestate and to rear its ugly head. And Joe is fine. He's absolutely fine. I saw him today. I saw him yesterday. Had the pleasure of visiting him in Chester County Hospital. And when you mention hospital, everybody frets, but believe me, Joe is fine. He is just in there to allow the parasites in his blood to decrease to the point to where he can be released. And it's moving definitely in the right direction. So that's the 5,000-foot view of what's going on. No cause for concern at all. And we had a couple really great conversations since yesterday, a good probably total of 4 hours of chat. And since Chester County Hospital is right around the corner, in fact, I'm looking at the back of it right now here from the van, from the Silver Porcupine standby. So, I told Joe if he needs anything, including contraband, I'd be delighted to bring it in. Hi. So, ham radio, not much activity, but that's the big news to report. And Greg, thanks for doing the net tonight. And I will turn it over to Steve, KC3, and I'm going to move from the van here to the fixed station inside. KC3YSM to take it, WA3VEE Mobile.
Thank you, Ron, WA3VEE. This is KC3YSM. Greg, thanks for sitting in tonight and hosting. And Ron, thanks for the update on the hospital visit here. We've had been wondering how he's doing, and I'm certainly glad he's doing much better. So that's great news. And Randy, yes, QVC is right around the corner. Literally, I used to live. I could ride my bike to QVC when I was a kid growing up, but all good. So welcome. And ham radio has been a bit quiet. Was at the shore for probably 8 days, and come back to a whirlwind between cutting the grass and trying to keep up with things. But all very good. A few nets, but that is about it. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Chuck, NA3CW. This is KC3YSM.
Thank you, Steve. KC3YSM, NA3CW. Mostly a quiet week in Lake Wobegon, ham radio-wise. 985 activities. Subbing for Joe on Sunday, so I hosted the pre-net and did net control for the Antique Wireless Association PM/AM net on 75 meters. And we had a good group. And of course, visiting Joe and keeping an ear on things in general. And then Bill and I went over to Joe's house to work on the tower, and I'll let Bill explain what we did since he did most of it. I help. He does the actual work, and I help. So that's probably it. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. Oh, and Steve, interesting. You rode your bike to QVC when you were a kid. I rode in that neighborhood as well, except I was riding on 202 while it was being built. It was kind of fun riding up and down a 4-lane divided highway with nobody on it. So I did that a couple of times. That was kind of a thrill, and that was in the neighborhood of QVC. So, speaking of Bill, over to Sane, KC300K, NA3CW.
NA3CW, KC300K. Thanks, Chuck. And Greg, thanks for taking the net tonight. And before I start, I'll just say I also rode on the 202 before it opened. My uncle's excavating trucks with the flashing lights. I sat for, I think, a year or two before it was actually opened. But anyhow, enough of that. I guess for me, as Chuck said, probably the highlight was working on Joe's tower. We had 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I think the last session was pretty darn successful. We figured out quite a bit. It's amazing to take this long at this point into it to really kind of put it all together. But it's coming together well. We have to take the section apart again. We're going to change out some bolts and maybe straighten out one section. And then I think from there on, anything adjustments we do are going to be when it's up in the air. So it's getting there. Other than that, my only other activities here have been working on the lab bench. The bench is all built. The risers pretty much ready to glue together now. I'm just figuring out how I'm going to put power in it in the various locations before I glue it together. And that's about it for me. So let's see, I turn it over to John, Whiskey Alpha 3, Kentucky Fried Turkey, KC300K.
KC300K, WA3 King Fox Tango. Okay, Bill, got a suggestion for you. On that bench, put a power strip at the front. You'll never know how convenient it is, and especially if you don't have it. My operating table has, well, there are 2 legs that support it in the front, and both legs have a power strip on them. And across the back of the table, there's a 120-volt AC power strip, as well as a 12-volt DC strip. So they come in real handy. You don't have to climb over things to find an outlet and use a long extension cord or any of that kind of stuff. I learned a long, long time ago. Make your power available, easy to get to, and so forth. We've been kind of making up master lists of call letters and so forth. We've had a couple of typos. I made a list of the 985 gang. I keep a list when we check in, and then from that I kind of make a master list, and it's growing. So far tonight, 2 new ones. So very good. And not too much otherwise radio-wise. We're sorting through parts and pieces and cables and things like that. I discovered some end connectors still in the sealed packages today, so we got a place for those. Okay, I think it was Simon, Kilowatt Delta 3, Boston, Papa, India, from Whiskey Alpha 3, King Fox Tango. John here. Go ahead.
Simon, if you're trying to make it in there, we're not quite getting you. You're just barely breaking the squelch. KD3 BPI, this is W3DIB. Yeah, we're still not hearing you. I'm checking both on the RF and the AllStar side. I'm not able to hear you on either side. So if you're trying to get in, if you can increase power, that might help, because I know the intermod was back. It seems like it might be not here now, but if you want to give it one more shot, let's give it a try now.
We still have intermod. He might get a chance if it goes away later.
Okay, very good, Chuck. Yeah, Simon, we're not able to hear you. I assumed it had gone away, because listening back to myself, I don't hear the standard, wah, 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 over top of me, as well as the on the end. So, sorry for the sound effects. I guess we'll turn it over to Wayne, KC3 SQI, and we'll try to come back to Simon after, I guess, the first question. So, Wayne, KC3 SQI, this is W3DIB.
Am I making it in?
Loud and clear.
Okay. W3DIB, this is KC3SQI. In the process of going to the new tower, and today I decided to start trying to mount the remote switch inside the weatherproof box. So I went out and got it off of the old tower, and last year, some of you can remember that I had a remote switch full of earwigs, or pincer bugs, and so I put screen around it. Well, took it apart to look at what was in there, and I had little black ants going everywhere. Up my pants, down my pants, up my arms, down my neck. It was a mess. Had to take it outside and blow it all out with the compressor. And so I will get that mounted into the box, and then we'll go from there and start moving all of the coaxes and stuff. And then the last thing to move over will be the 2-meter antenna. So doing that, and hopefully things will settle down a little bit, and I won't have to find out what kind of bugs I got in the remote switch this year. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jim, AF3Z. This is KC3SQI.
One second, am I making it here on RF?
You are, Jim. You're coming right in.
Okay, sorry folks. I was looking up Simon on QRZ, and then I got fouled up here. I'm on EchoLink at the moment. AF3Z, a lid here this evening. And good evening, everybody. And Randy out in Salt Lake, good to hear you. And also Simon. Simon, I saw there on QRZ that you happen to know Ron, W3GMS, so I want to express my condolences for that. But and I also saw, I think you're using an HT, so yeah, you were marginal before the intermod came in, and that just wiped you out, and that that's a normal kind of thing. So anyway, Ron and others of us, if you can get an outside antenna and things like that. But good to hear you, and hopefully later on it'll be gone and we're okay there. I haven't done a whole lot this week, radio-wise, my normal 985 stuff and some CW occasionally with a local guy here, and that's about it. But I do want to point out, too, like Chuck and Bill said, I lived very close to 202, and they built the, quote, new 202, and I never rode on it, my bike. I can't believe it. How did I miss that? I thought about that a number of times. Why didn't I get up there? Between 29 and 401, we lived right along it there, had good access to it, but I never did ride my bike, so that's one I missed. So, Paxton, good to hear you again tonight. Over to you, KD3APR. This is AF3Z.
Want to check. Am I getting into the repeater okay?
Yes, making it just fine.
Great, thank you, Jim. This is K3APR Paxton. I'm in Hockessin right now on a 8-watt handheld, so I'm pleasantly surprised that I'm making it in through the intermod. Not too much for me in the way of ham radio this week. Took part in took part last Thursday, but not all too much else. Did actually repair this very radio. They're all great until the screen goes white and you can't work on it, so that was a simple case of disassemble, unplug the ribbon connector and plug it back in, but probably the closest I've come to a repair thus far, but not all too much else for me. Passing over to W3MFB Mike.
W3MFB, am I making it, Greg?
You're making it just fine.
Hey, all right, yeah, not too much going on here. Just the usual repeater activity. It's the first time I listened to HF this evening, just kind of scrolling around 40, listening to people talking about the smoke and the haze. So that's about it for me. So can't wait to hear what the question is. So back to Greg. W3DIB, W3MFB in the group.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike. W3MFB, W3DIB. Is there, before we go on to the question, is there anybody else that would like to check in? Please call now.
You have a quick comment, WA3VEE.
Go for it, Ron.
Hey, very good. Well, first of all, I'm completely elated here to have one of my former students try to check into the workbench here, Simon Yavino. Wonderful job, Simon. I sent you an email. I have your old email address from the days we were at Delaware Tech together, and you were one of my students. So welcome, absolute welcome to 985. And I won't keep it here because we need to get to the questions, but I wanted to throw that out there. Give me a call tomorrow. I emailed my phone number to you. I want to get you going and tell you how you can get a very good signal into any of the repeaters in this area. And Paxton, great to hear you. Another one of my mentorees as well. So, and one final thing, great clam bake. Had the pleasure of having Luke, much to his displeasure, I'm sure. He had to ride shotgun with me all the way up to build W2GMS and back, but we had a great time, all kidding aside. That's it from me. Thanks for letting me come in and make the comment. Doing a fine job, Greg. Thanks for hosting again tonight. W3DIB, WA3VEE.
Alrighty, left a cause for the pause there. Thanks, Ron. WA3VEE, W3DIB. And I was going to say Simon, Kilo Delta 3, BPI. I was going to say, if you want to send me an email or send Ron an email your question, we can still try to have it answered on the net if you can hear us. So we'll put that out there. Let's see. I think the first person that had a question besides Simon was Bill. So we'll send it over to KC3 OOK W3DIV on the Monday Night Workbench.
W3DIV KC3OOK. Thanks, Greg. Well, I'm not sure how pertinent this question is to most people on here, unless they are interested in boat anchors. But I was doing some reading on the heat kit units to figure out current draw for the electrical design for the ham shack. And one of the things I noticed was that the Warrior amplifier has 2 ratings for AM power, and it says slightly higher under controlled carrier modulation. So I did look that up, actually on Google AI, and it referred me to, interestingly, a Wireless Girl article. So I've read a little bit about it. So what is controlled carrier modulation? And for those who are old enough, back in the day, because I know modern radios don't have it, did you use it? It's KC3OOK. Back to the net.
Okay.
Sure. John, did you have a question before, or did you just want to have an answer? All right. Take it away, John. We'll turn it over to you. WA3KFT.
WA3 King Fox Tango. Control carrier modulation is a cheap way of doing AM as opposed to plate modulation. The Night Kit T150, which I used for many years, had a pair of 6146s in it, but did not have plate modulation. It had control carrier modulation. And what happens is the audio changes the power of the carrier, and in effect it modulates the carrier. So if they're saying X number watts of control carrier modulation, you need to look at what the peak is, because it's not constant. It's a signal very much like sideband. No audio. It does have a carrier, but it's very low. And on modulation peaks, it's very high. So you need to have a power supply that is stiff and won't sag during modulation. But the Night Kit T150 used control carrier modulation. I think there were some other transmitters that did it. It's less expensive than plate modulation, and that's why they use it. This is WA3KFT.
Excellent. Cool. I'm taking notes as well. Are there any other stations that would like to offer a comment?
3Z.
Take it away, Jim.
Yeah, the DX60, Heathkit DX60 also has control carrier modulation. And John, you can correct me, or Chuck or somebody if I'm wrong here. My recollection, it's been a while since I looked at it, is it's much harder to overdrive the modulation, as in, get flat topping and stuff. The way it's set up, it kind of doesn't. When I was testing out the DX60, I couldn't get it to overdrive. So anyway, I think that may be true. But anyway, that's another rig that uses it. And like I say, I didn't have much to do as far as setting the audio level, because it sort of seemed to almost control that itself, at least on the high end.
Back to you there, Greg. AF3Z.
AF3Z, W3DIB. Are there any other stations with comments?
Hey.
Back over to John.
The Kit T150, it uses a pair of 6146s in the final. And the modulation is applied to the screens. So basically, you're modulating the screen instead of the plate. Plate modulation, literally you modulate the B plus on the plate. But control carrier modulates the B plus on the screen. And I got carried away during a QSO once and really hit the audio hard. And I burned the screens out of a pair of 6146s in the T150. So it's an inexpensive way to make amplitude modulation, but look to see if it modulates the screen of the final or the screen of a driver. And be aware that if you hit the audio too hard, you're going to lose the screen. This is WA3KFT.
I like the way you put that. Are there any? I guess you definitely want a brick wall limiter on your AF side before you go into your transmitter there. Are there any other stations that would like to offer a comment? Please call now. CW. Over to Chuck.
This is NA3 CW. Yeah, the X60 did carrier control or screen modulation. Screen modulation can sound excellent. The efficiency is not as high as plate modulation, but plate modulation is requires basically a very large audio amplifier and a modulation transformer, and well, for that version of plate modulation. And as far as burning the screens up, that's has to do with the dynamics of the tube during voltage swings. So you can end up with a situation where the screens are more positive than the plate, and all the current will go to the screen instead of the plate, all the electrons, and they are fast. And the screen's not made to take that much current, so they go poof. Back in the day when I was working in the shortwave business, I made a dynamic carrier control system for the broadcast transmitters. They were 100 kilowatt carrier, and they did modulation by varying the power supply, like a switch mode power supply. And so at 12 kilovolts, it was at 100 kilowatt carrier, and 100% modulation means you're doubling the voltage, the AC voltage that's coming out of the tube, and so it goes, from 100 kilowatts to, the voltage at 100 kilowatts. Double that, you end up with 400 kilowatts because power goes up by a square of the voltage. So the transmitters are capable of 400,000 watt peaks. Now, when you're sitting at 100 kilowatts of carrier and nobody's talking, you're burning up a lot of power, and there's nothing to listen to other than keeping the channel quiet on the receiver. So what we did, and there's various schemes of carrier control depending on what your goals are. In our case, it was to save money since we were a donation finance ministry. I designed a system whereby the transmitters, when there was nobody talking, they would drop back to 50 kilowatts, which is enough to keep generally in target areas, enough to keep the channel quiet. And then if there was a little bit of audio, say half audio, they would drop down to 25 kilowatts, but the audio would sort of mask the noise of the channel in the receiver. But then when there was loud audio, the carrier would swing up to the full 100 kilowatts so we could make the 400 kilowatt peaks. So we ended up saving $5,000 a month out of a $30,000 a month electric bill. So carrier control can be very useful, but it can be tricky to set up. And what they're doing in the case of how much power, it's a plate modulated system is generally constant carrier, constant carrier coming out plus peaks. Carrier control is the power is going up and down, so the average is lower, and so you can run quote unquote more power in a carrier control situation without overloading things downstream, because it's not at full power most of the time, depending on how much hemming and hawing you do. So back to net. I don't know if any of that made sense, but there you go. Back to net, NA3CW.
Wow, Chuck, that's a really cool explanation. It almost sounds like you made the RF equivalent of like a downward expander in the audio world. And when I say that, instead of downward expanding the AF side, the audio frequency, you were kind of downward expanding the power you were applying to the tubes that would modulate the signal. Is that a fair synopsis of what was going on? Sorry to interject. NA3CW, this is W3DIB.
Your net control, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, that's kind of the idea. Now, BBC had a whole different approach. They wanted to keep the channel very quiet. And so what they would do, because they had the budget to do it, they don't anymore because they don't do very much international broadcasting anymore. But what they did was they would cram the carrier up to maximum and just sit there when there was no audio, so the channel would be very quiet. And then when they modulated, the carrier power would actually drop, because now you have audio in the channel overcoming the noise, and so that all their modulation was downward. And so it made a very listenable thing, but it cost a fortune to run it, because anytime somebody stopped talking, boom, the carrier goes up to maximum. But so again, like I said, it depended on what your goals were. In our case, it was to save money. So at the listening end, at the listener's end, in our normal, not on the fringes, but in our normal target areas, they couldn't tell the difference. You could listen to recordings, and the carrier's jumping all over the place, but it sounds fine because there's always enough carrier to fully modulate the audio without clipping. So it sounds a lot more complicated than it really is. Doing it was complicated, but the end result works very well. So, but in any event, and to get back to Bill's question, it's all about average carrier power. And with a carrier control situation, such as would be in a DX60 or something like that, the average carrier power is less than if it was in, say, a plate modulated AM system. NA3CW.
Thanks, Chuck. That's an awesome explanation. Yeah, and Bill, sorry to sidetrack. I'll put it out there one more time. Are there any other stations that want to offer a comment? Please call now. W3DIB. Okay, nothing heard. So we'll turn it back over to you, Bill. Hopefully that answers your question. KC3OOK, W3DIB.
W3DIB, KC3OOK. Yes, it does answer my question, and surprisingly, it's starting to sink in and make sense. And thanks, John and Jim and Chuck especially, for your real clear and understandable theory on how it works. It's interesting, John's comment about burning out the tubes. The Wireless Girl article does reference that, and her comment was that the meter can't respond quickly enough on PC, far exceed, and she recommends running no more than 165 milliamps of plate current when the manual says you can run up to 200, and that's just what she was referring to, was cooking your tubes. So, very good. I really appreciate it. And I'll have to do some more reading about the radio, because it gives you both ratings, so I don't know if it can operate in both modes. But more to learn and read, go down the rabbit hole. But thanks so much. So back to you, Greg. W3DIB, KC300OK.
All right, KC300OK, W3DIB. The only other person I believe that had a question was Simon. So Kilo Delta 3 Bravo Papa India. I just checked my email inboxes and I don't have anything. Ron, did you happen to get an email from Simon, or I guess we'll give Simon a chance to see if he's able to make it in. KD3 BPI, are you there? W3DIB.
W3DIB, KD3BPI. Can you hear me coming through yet?
Yes, you're coming through perfect. Excellent.
Well, this is great news. I ran down to my car and grabbed my mag mount and a cookie sheet. And I stuck the cookie sheet in the edge of a gutter here on my fiance's porch out. She has a third-floor apartment in East Goshen. And it's sort of on the, with my small radio, it's kind of on the fringe. Well, at least it seems to be on the fringe. I don't think it actually is, but that's what you get with a cheap, underpowered radio. Anyway, I will get to my question, and it has to do with automotive application of a handheld radio. So I have my Baofeng, and I have it hooked up to my mag mount usually in my Nissan. But I tend to get, when I'm at speed, I tend to get a little more noise on the receive, and I've received reports that I get noise on the transmit as well. And so I was wondering if I should perhaps ground my antenna to the chassis of the vehicle, and therefore ground my radio as well, because the radio grounds to the antenna. But I hope that got through okay. Let me know if it did.
You got through just perfect. I was actually able to check you on the input as well, so you're making it to Kennett Square, right near Longwood Gardens, very well as well. Any stations wishing to give an answer, please call now.
Z.
All right, we'll turn it over to Jim.
Sound great there, Simon, and very astute adjustment to your setup there. That was great. I have always used mag mounts and various kinds, sizes, various people. I never had that problem. This is a guess on my part, but I would think maybe the connection from the whip to the mag mount, the whip to the mag mount, I don't know if it could be dirty or corroded or something, or clean that up. But I'm wondering if when you're moving, the whip moving around, that connection is not real good, and that's what's causing your noise. That's my guess. Back to you there, Greg. W3DIB, AF3Z.
AF3Z, W3DIB. Are there any other stations that would offer a comment? I was actually just going to throw in there, Simon, I don't know if you're getting, when you say you get more noise on receive and transmit, is it noise, like as in white noise? Or are you getting like a whine, or, like what I would call ignition noise, that kind of changes pitch with acceleration of the engine? I just figured I'd throw that in there as an extra question. Do you have any kind of, like, additional information on the type of noise you're getting?
Yeah, so what I heard, the report I heard was that it came through as sort of like a crackle, and that's what I hear on the receive as well. It's just sort of a very, not quite intermittent. It has some sort of frequency to it, but no defined frequency, if that makes sense. It just kind of, it'll crackle a few times and then be fine, and then crackle again and be fine, but then almost without fail, when I come to a stop, whether at a traffic light or whatever, it goes away with whatever frequency it had. It doesn't have anymore. But that's the kind of noise, the crackle. And also the report I heard was that it made it so that I couldn't hear, he couldn't hear me at the other end. And as soon as I came to a stop, he said he could hear me just fine. So I do wonder, I'll have to double check to make sure it's good and tight. Thank you, I believe that was AF3Z, but thank you for that.
W? I think that was Chuck. Was that you, Chuck?
It were.
Report.
Simon, just to recap, you say you're using a handheld HT wired out to a mag mount?
Yes, that is correct. It's and it has a couple of adapters on it as well. I had to do SMA to the RG. I can't remember the number now, but it's the one with a relatively large center conductor.
And are you using the internal battery, or are you powering it through a cable to the car, like it's to a cigarette lighter?
Just the internal battery.
Okay, one thing that occurs to me is I'm wondering if you're building up static electricity because you have no ground to the frame of the car. The mag mount couple doesn't really DC connect to the car, and you're not using the car's power system, so you got no drain for static, and depending on weather conditions and et cetera, you can collect significant amount of voltage on the antenna if it's not grounding to the car any place. So aside from, let's say, forget about grounding the mag mount, if you could maybe do a clip lead from, say, the outside of the coax connector on your adapter or the radio itself, and run a clip lead to some metal part of the car that is grounded as a drain, that might be an interesting experiment to see if it quiets it down. It may not be that, but that did occur to me. NA3CW.
MFB.
Over to W3MFB, W3DIB.
Greg. This is Mike, W3MFB. When I started out, I did the same thing, Baofeng, mag mount antenna. And I can tell you one thing, you just mentioned keeping everything tight. That's very good, because when you're using the radio, right, putting it down on the seat or whatever when you're not using it, it's going to loosen up. But also, it's a good way to start until you save a little bit of money to get a mobile radio. And people saying you're a little scratchy when you're moving, that's mobile flutter. That happens when you're moving, even when you're using a high power radio. Chuck's right about the ground, that's true. Mag mounts, hey, I use one, but it is what it is. But yeah, getting a mobile radio, eventually getting hooked up, and you can still use your mag mount and be fine. A little bit more fire in the wire, as they say, and I'm sure some of the repeaters you're trying to get into, with a little bit more fire in the wire, you'll be able to get into them a little better and sound clear and concise. But yeah, I mean, it's doable, and you're doing it right now on the cookie sheet. So on the 3rd floor, hey, that's the best place to have some antennas out on that veranda. So that's brilliant. But yeah, that's my comment there. Back to Greg. W3DIB, W3MFB.
And to congratulate Simon on the cookie sheet and the mag mount is, excellent.
What do they say? The necessity is the mother of all invention. Excellent. W3DIB here. Are there any other stations that would like to offer a comment?
WA3VEE.
Turn it over to Ron, WA3VEE, W3DIB.
Excellent. By the way, Simon, I have a recording of your first transmission there, so I'll send that over to you via email. And yes, thanks for forwarding the question to me also, but you're getting in very, very well on your lash up that you have there. And by the way, another person who checked in here who I've also mentored is Steve, KC3YSM, and his first configuration was exactly yours. It was also a mag mount on a cookie sheet from his kitchen, but he's significantly closer to the repeater than I think you are. So I don't see your address on QRZ, but nonetheless, we'll settle that tomorrow when we chat on the phone. Anyway, I just wanted to make the comment that before Chuck beat me to the push to talk button, but it definitely sounds like static buildup. If you think about the fact that there's friction, of course, between that antenna and the air molecules moving by, and on a grand scale, that's exactly what is caused in a thunderstorm. So that's probably what's going on. The mechanism is certainly there to define that. When you're moving, the faster you're moving, you probably have more and more static. And like you said, as you stop, the static goes away. So once you put a ground on it, that should solve it. And we'll talk more about effective antennas, both for the fixed station and also for mobile tomorrow when we chat. Back to you, Greg. Again, Simon, pleasure to have you on first of all, to have your ham radio ticket, and at least I had some success anyway way back when. Thanks for acknowledging me on QRZ on your page, for sure. And you'll notice that K3DTS is still a call sign, but it's no longer with the college, it's with me. Back to you, Greg. W3DIB and the net WA3VEE.
Thanks, Ron. Yeah, K3DTS, man, that'll forever be burned into my mind as the 985 field day go-to station. I know it has more purpose than that, but I'll never forget that call sign. And yeah, kudos, Simon, for quick thinking and pulling out a cookie sheet for your ground plane and making an antenna making your antenna more effective. That's really cool. And I'm jealous. I'm very jealous that you got to have Ron for an instructor. I said to Ron before, or at least I hope I have, if I'd have had him when I was in EE, I probably would have graduated EE. Although I probably still would have gravitated towards programming because my brain just works that way. Anyway, I am going on. Are there any other stations that would like to offer a comment? Please call now.
KC3SQI.
Take it away, Wayne. This is W3DIB.
Okay, another way that you could ground the radio is if you had a power cord that went into a lighter plug for the radio for charging, and if you can use that with while you're transmitting, that will ground the radio too, and also give the static a place to bleed off. So that might be something that you actually have running around with you. KC3SQI, back to you.
Yeah, that does have the added benefit. You could derive your power from the car, giving you longer QSOs, longer conversations. Are there any other stations who would like to offer a comment? Please call now. Okay, nothing heard. Simon, we'll turn it back over to you for your final comments. KD3BPI. This is W3DIB.
83 BPI. Thanks to everyone for their thoughts. This is a lot. I took notes, but it's a lot to think on. I was wondering about the idea of static building up because as I heard it this morning, I had moved my antenna from my trunk lid to my roof because I thought maybe my trunk lid wasn't an effective ground plane. And it actually was worse on my roof. The noise I was getting, I was able to hear it in the receive, whereas before I hadn't been able to hear it in the receive. So I was thinking, like, maybe the wind rushing by is doing something electrically. But you guys put it together for me, and I thank you for that. and I like the idea of this cigarette lighter plug. That would be easy. I was thinking I might have to go and find my stash of fork connectors, the crimp-on fork connectors, and put one under one of the bolts of my seat. But sounds like I probably can just hook up the lighter plug, and I'm going to test my radio tonight. This particular Baofeng has a USB-C port on the battery for charging, and I was wondering if maybe that the case or the shell of that USB-C port, maybe that is shorted to the same ground as the coax antenna. I thought maybe I could use a USB port, but nevertheless, I think that I'll be getting a pigtail with a cigarette lighter on one end and just using that as a good ground. But yes, so thanks to everyone for their thoughts. This is KD3BPI.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds like you have a couple of options. I often wonder if you were to plug in the USB-C, I wonder if you might negate your one noise problem with another one, especially if there's a battery management or charge management module circuit in there with extra potentially noise-generating components. But I guess that's for another conversation. If there's anybody else that has a question, or if there's just anybody that would like to do a late check-in before we close down the workbench, let's put it out there. So anybody that wants to either get a check-in or has a last-minute question for the workbench, please call now. This is W3DIB.
3MFB question.
A3CW comment.
Let's turn it over to Chuck first for a comment, because I think it's probably on the same question, and then we'll turn it, Chuck, if you want to turn it right over to Mike, W3MFB, that'll be perfect. This is Whiskey 3 Delta India Bravo, sending it to NA3CW.
Actually, this is different. This is NA3CW. Going back to Wayne, talking about his ants in the box. At one time, I had a full infestation of ants in my household breaker panel. They were waving their little antennas between the breakers. They were all over the place in there. And I read a thing, and I tried it out, and it works. Ants hate the smell of peppermint oil. So I vacuumed out as many as I could, but I didn't want to go spraying around inside my breaker panel with bug spray. So I put, as per the suggestion, I got a little cup and put in a few cotton balls and soaked them with peppermint oil. Now, you want to do this outdoors, because if you get peppermint oil loose in your house, you're going to burn it. You're just going to burn your house down out of frustration, because it's overwhelming. Peppermint oil is very powerful stuff. But if you, especially if you're doing it outdoors anyway, put a cup, a bottle cap, a lid, something, and put some cotton balls on it, and put peppermint oil on it, and sit it inside the box, and you will not have any trouble with ants, because they can't stand it. Back to net, NA3CW.
Wow, that's a cool tip. I'm going to file that one away too. Over to you, Mike. W3MFB, W3DIB.
Crazy question. On the workbench and or roundtable, seeing how long-winded we all get over here. And I know sometimes we leave a pause for the cause, and that's a good thing. I heard you say that before, Greg. But how come, and I never asked this in 5 years, how come we never break for emergency traffic? Back to net.
All right, we'll put that out to the group. I don't know if I totally understand the question. Why do we never break for emergency traffic? Have we had an instance where someone has chimed in? But maybe I'm not understanding the question. I will put it out. Is there anybody, any stations that have a comment? Please call now.
283CEE.
Ron. I got WA3VEE, but you definitely doubled with somebody. So I'll mark down Ron. We'll go to you first, and then was there another station that called?
8CRW.
Got it. All right, so we'll send it over to Ron, WA3VEE, and then over to W8CRW. This is W3DIB, Monday Night Workbench.
Very good, Greg. W3DIB with W8CRW in the wings. WA3VEE, and with your indulgence as net control, I will send it right over to CR when I'm done. Typically, nets have a script where they start off by saying, if anybody has priority traffic, please call now or whatever. I don't know that we've ever, and I can't speak for the founders of the Workbench, and that would be Jerry, W3EMF, or for the roundtable, Phil, KC3CIB. I don't know that we ever really thought about that. I don't know that it's really necessary in ham radio, and it sounds like something that you'll learn here. In ham radio, basically, if there is an emergency, the typical way that you signal an emergency is you do break. That would be between transmissions. That will immediately signal an emergency for anyone who didn't know that. That's the typical procedure, and folks have been in this a long time. In fact, even some longer than me. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I always understood the procedure to be. Someone with any emergency traffic, if you're on the road and there's an accident, or you can't get to 911 or something like that, or you need immediate help, the way to do it is break. That signals an emergency like right away, and everything stops. So calling at the beginning of a net, I always thought, frankly myself, I always thought that was silly. But anyway, that's the input that I have there. So if anybody ever has a priority, that's what would be expected to be done. That's in the ARRL operating manual, and it's been in there since DIRT was invented. Over to you, CR, W8CRW, and the group WA3VEE.
Good, Ron. I believe you got the essence of the answer. So if you have an issue, you have an emergency on the ham radio side, break, and that will give you priority. And with that, let's go back to Greg, W8CRW.
Z. Go for it, Jim. Right over to AF3Z.
Just highlighting something. That is correct, obviously, I hope. But also, I can say I've never heard it discussed here, and I agree with Ron. It's kind of silly the way it gets done, though it does remind people it can happen. But that's when we say, you should leave pauses between transmissions, and it's good repeater etiquette, which is in our scripts at times. That's part of what that's all about. You shouldn't fill up the airway. You should leave breaks in case somebody needs to break in. So another good reason to do that. And we all trespass on that territory at times. Back to you, Greg, AF3Z.
Nope, that's good advice for me as well. I can sometimes be quick with the push to talk, especially now that I've gotten over to RF. But yeah, I had always assumed, and it's funny, for once I didn't feel like the dunce in the room, because I actually knew the answer to that. I remember, I forget how it happened. I think it was Dr. Mills back at University of Delaware, where he was kind of in charge of the amateur radio club there when I was in school. W3UD was the call, I believe. Yeah, I remember something came up about the word break, and it was basically, don't use that on amateur bands. Like, that means an emergency, and I don't know why, but that stuck in my head. And and I always kind of assumed like the ham radio being kind of like the gentle person's type of radio, not like some other forms of radio. if somebody ever broke in with any kind of emergency, we would just immediately stop what we were doing and probably try to help, whether it was relaying a message, making a phone call, whatever. I just assume that's kind of how ham radio is. So are there any other stations that would like to offer a comment? Please call now. Okay, nothing heard. I guess we'll turn it back over to Mike. W3MFB, this is W3DIV.
In CR and Jim, yeah, I figured as much. You know, we do leave pauses, and we do have a courtesy, especially on digital and digital modes in RF. We do leave major pauses for digital, so if anybody wanted to, they could pop in here. And I know, the dawn of cell phones and all that stuff, but we're not really in a spot with cell phone use and whatnot. People usually call, but 911 was down in our Chester County area not too long ago, and also the Euclid area, Exton area, they're getting a lot of drop calls. A lot of people are on cell phones. There's not enough towers up there. I think it was better when it was 4G, but then, you know, COVID hit and taxes were high in New York and New Jersey, and everybody moved down this way. So, yeah, there's a lot of drop calls on all networks up there in that general area. So, yeah, I was just kind of curious, you know, because you hear it on HF a lot, you know, especially like Maritime Mobile and things like that. But, yeah, no, I get it. I wasn't gung-ho on it, but I was just curious, that's all. So I appreciate it, Greg and the boys. Thank you very much. W3MFB, back to net.
Okay. I don't think there were any other questions indicated, but you know what? We'll put it out for anybody who wants to check in for that final check-in to get on the list here on the Monday night workbench. I almost said Thursday night workbench. Are there any other stations who would like to get added to the list? Please call now.
Kilo Charlie 3, Yankee Tango Delta.
Kilo Charlie 3, Yankee Tango Delta. Over to you.
Checking in. I don't have any comments.
CK.
You're trying to look up the station YTD. That is KC3YTD. That's Steve. And also you had Bruce in there, KS4CK. So that gives you some continuity there. This is WA3VEE.
Thank you, Ron. I did even worse than that. I don't know what I pressed on my mic, but I completely changed my radio into some weird frequency mode, and I basically had to power cycle it to get back, and I missed all of what Steve basically said. But I did not hear Bruce, so I guess we'll turn it over to him. Over to Steve. Was there a question? KC3YTD.
No, I had no question. I was just checking in. Over.
Thank you, and sorry I missed a lot of your transmission, unfortunately, because of my stupidity. So forgive me. I will turn it over to Bruce. Kilo Sierra 4 Charlie Kilo, W3DIV on the Monday Night Workbench.
Yeah, KS4CK, name is Bruce. Just checking in and out. Thanks for having a great net, and love listening to it. Just wanted to get my name on the list.
You are officially on the log, and welcome. Glad you guys both checked in, Steve and Bruce. Yeah, make sure to check in frequently. We'll turn it over one more time. Are there any other stations that would like to get added to the list? And then if not, we'll go ahead and close the workbench. Any stations wishing to be added to the list, check in now.
November 3, Oscar Golf Foxtrot.
Over to November 3, Oscar Golf Foxtrot.
John, West Bradford Township. Yeah, listen to the net, good net again, very informative, in 7-3, N3OGF.
7-3, John, thanks for checking in. Make sure, we'll love to hear you here again. And any other stations listening to check in, please call now. Okay, nothing heard. All right, before we close down the workbench, I want to say thanks to all stations checking in to this edition, this Monday, August 4th edition of the 985 Workbench. Great questions all around. Bill, I loved your boat anchor question. I learned something huge about carrier control modulation versus plate modulation, and how, I think John was the one that said it, how the screen doesn't like those nasty loud audio peaks, otherwise you can chew up your screens pretty easily. And then I think Chuck mentioned his dynamic carrier control that modulated the power to save quite a bit of energy. I think you said $5,000 a month in electricity energy out of 30,000 total, so that's pretty amazing, actually, and pretty ingenious. Yeah, and then let's see, we had Simon. We've got kudos to Simon for making it in with your cookie sheet and mag mount on the Baofeng. Excellent. And then the good question about getting rid of the noise on your mobile setup. Looking at both static electricity as probably a source of that. Anyway, we want to give a big thank you to Joe, W3GMS, for making the 985 repeater available to the workbench. You are invited to use the repeater often. That's a great way to show that you appreciate the gift of 985 to the amateur radio community. Finally, we hope to hear you again on Thursday evening at 8 p.m. during the Round Table, the 985 Round Table, this week hosted by Jim, AF3Z. This concludes the workbench for tonight. Feel free to stick around and continue the discussion on 985. Have a great night and a great week ahead. 73, this is W3DIB, now clear.